Hello everyone. So in the last video we have seen in our entity class how we can create a staff class into an entity class and how we can create an ID. So and also I created an empty constructor. So I wanted to change something here, guys. So I had a thought in my mind that this other constructor, okay, the parameter passing constructor is being used in my code, but fortunately we have removed the usage already, which I forgot to tell you, because the even in our controller the staff object is being passed by the user. So you don't need anything, you just take the staff object and you just add it to your list, right? So you don't, or we don't manually create any staff objects. So in that sense, user passing objects are simply mapped to the staff class, but we are not creating any objects. So this constructor which was existing is not needed or is not used by our code. So I will simply remove that constructor. So as I said, if I don't have that parameter passing constructor, I will not even need that empty constructor, because nowhere in the code I'm going to use this empty constructor by myself. So the sake of adding the empty constructor was this entity related mapping, because I made the class as an entity. So since I removed the parameter passing constructor, I don't need this constructor as well. So what will happen is this entity, because of the entity adding scenario, the system, when it is mapping the staff object, it will by default it will create or use an empty constructor like this. So I don't have to explicitly mention an empty constructor, because I removed the other constructor. This also is not needed. The system will automatically consider and use an empty constructor like this. So I don't have to write a one. So I'm removing it and there is no error is coming. Okay, so this is one thing. So what I will do is I will just up my application, build my application, and see if the particular class table is being created in my database, right? At the moment we don't have any tables here, right? So normally I'm building my application. So the build is success. Now my application has been successfully built. So I'm going to try run now. Now I will go and refresh this and see a table has been built, right? You see the staff table has been built, created by newly, right? So if you want to check the columns, you can see staff ID, age, and staff name is there. So the same fields that I gave are there. So when you build an application with the class of @entity, okay, the Spring Boot will take care of creating that particular tables in this database. So we are good, right? So if you want to see further details, you can simply click this. Maybe I'm wrong, not this one. Okay, and you see this staff ID is a primary key because we have added this we have mentioned this staff ID as ID, right? You remember we have annotated the staff ID as ID in our code. That is why it has become primary key here, PK. You got it? Okay. So let me see how I can. Okay, it should be here. Okay. Let me see. Okay, so if I check the data, so select all from staff table. If I check the data, select all from staff table, I will see there's no data there because I didn't add any data. Okay, that is fine. So that means our entities in you yourself can have seen when you add the class as an entity, and the database is, the application is understanding, okay, this is a table and I want to create the table in my database. So it goes into the database and create the particular table. You can do it with any number of class, guys. All good. So now what we have to do is, using this class or using this staff object, we are supposed to do that API endpoint operations, right? So let's say, for example, if I'm going to add the staff, think about my add scenario, right? Adding a staff. If I'm post mapping, so if I'm trying to add the staff, basically beyond the staff service methodology, instead of adding the staffs to the staffs list, I have to add that particular staff to the database. So I need to see how I can connect this methodology or this scenario. Instead of doing this, how I can bring this add staff scenario instead of adding add staff scenario to the next level, that means database level. How I can let the code to go and do a database addition instead of adding to an array list. You got it? How I can connect it. So you may remember in previous videos we have created a repository package. Okay, so inside the package what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new interface. Okay, let me see where I can create interface. You don't have interface? Okay, cool. Okay, let's see. Let's first give Java class. Okay, here I'm going to create a new interface with the name, let's say, staff repository. So this interface is going to be used to add or receive data to the database, or staff data, or staff data to the database. Okay, so this is not enough. What I have to do is, when I'm doing it, I also have to say extends JPA. Okay, JPA repository, and I have to say I'm going to use the staff object, and my primary ID key is going to be an integer because staff ID is an integer. Okay, I'll import the class. Okay, so here basically what happens is JPA repository is an inbuilt Java or inbuilt repository for Spring Boot to do some database related things, database related queries, MySQL queries, things like that. That means to add the data record to a table, to retrieve the records from the table, for things like that. This JPA repository itself is an interface. So this interface is already internally implemented by some other class. Okay, so you don't have to worry about implementing that class. You simply extend that interface for your purpose, okay, with the specific name of yours, and you are passing your object. What is your table name, or what is your object name? What is the table you are going to get the data from or put the data into, and also the primary key data type of the table, or in another word, the data type of the primary key of the table. Okay, so internally we have few methods implemented within this for this interface, like getting all the data from the table, or putting a particular data into the table, things like that we already have. Okay, we can see those things in details, what are the things we can do, and how we are going to take use of those methods using this repository into our staff service. Where do you have it? Into our staff service class. How we can connect this repository methodologies to our staff service class. And obviously staff service is connected to our staff controller, so that part we don't have any issues. We came from staff controller to staff service, and now we are going to connect the staff service to the staff repository, and staff repository will have internal implementation of queries. So simply we can go for the database updating and deleting. Here we are passing the staff object, so we don't have to worry about the system will itself know which table it is going to play around. So those things we will see in the next video, guys. Until then, take care. Bye.